So is Us the greatest horror movie ever made? Not even fucking close.
What is happening, subs, stalkers, and freaks, and welcome back to Dead Jester Circus. I have been looking forward to this movie for quite a long time. This was actually one of my most anticipated movies coming out this year. But you heard me in the opening, this is certainly not the best horror movie ever made. But did it live up to the hype, and at least was it a really good movie? Let's find out together, shall we?
There's a family in our driveway.
It's probably the neighbors. But y'all scared of a family?
Hi, can I help you?
Zora, put your shoes on.
If you want to get crazy, we can get crazy.
Us is the latest horror thriller from the mind of Jordan Peele, and it stars Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke. But yeah, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I was really underwhelmed by this movie. And I feel really sad for saying that because this had all the ingredients for a truly great horror movie. It kind of had this Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Night of the Living Dead vibe about it that I really dug. But in a lot of areas, this movie just kind of caves in on itself. And you know, for a movie that was so touted as being scary, it really wasn't fucking scary at all. And there's also a very predictable twist that I called 5 minutes into this movie. And really, if you watch the trailer, you can almost predict the twist as well. But I'll get into that later. But yeah, as highly praised as this thing was, I expected a lot more from it. Especially when you got critics saying stuff like, Jordan Peele's Us is a horror masterpiece. We are witnessing the birth of our modern day Hitchcock. Can honestly say I've never seen anything like Jordan Peele's Us. It's incredibly violent, filled with stuff I didn't expect to happen, and completely original. Us movie is amazing and so horrifying, just like Get Out. You'll want to watch it multiple times because there are so many things that go unnoticed the first watch. And right away, those kind of comments tell me one of two things. Either A, this movie is going to be something really special and it's going to be really good and it's going to be one of those truly monumental movies that will stand the test of time, or B, that these critics aren't really familiar with the horror genre, and so something like this they just think is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And after seeing this movie, I really gotta go with the latter on that one.
What are you people?
It's us.
So the whole point of this movie is that for years, our government has been secretly creating clones of everybody in the United States. Yes, everybody. How, you might ask? The fuck if I know, and I doubt if Jordan Peele does either. But these clones are a little different. They're not really perfect replicas. They lack a soul, for whatever the fuck that means. But the government keeps these things hidden in secret tunnels underground, and at one point you see them mirroring everything that their normal counterparts are doing above ground. Okay, first off, why? And secondly, how? If this were some sort of parallel dimension thing, I could understand that, and that might actually be a better fucking explanation of what is going on than the stupid government cloning bullshit. But since this is just science gone awry, how are the replicas telepathically linked to their norms, or tethered as they call it? And by telepathically, I mean how are they mirroring their same exact motions without going through the same things that everybody is going through above ground? And it's not like it's some little minute detail. It's a pretty big chunk of the backstory to these things, and it just gets glossed over. So after years of these things being kept suppressed below ground, they eventually decide that they're gonna come up to the surface and murder all their normal counterparts. But if murdering everybody isn't enough, they decide they have to do this stupid hands across America gesture to show everybody that they exist. But if you want to show the world that you're there, what's the point of murdering everybody? What does that solve? Wouldn't it have just been enough to simply go, hey, we're here, you know, we're real, we're clones of you, we exist, your government's been lying to you the entire time? Nope. Murder, because murder solves everything. You know, I get it. It's a horror movie, and you need to have some sort of threat in order for the horror to happen in a horror movie. But that's part of my whole problem with it, is that I don't feel like the threat was really fleshed out enough or even threatening enough. And the reasoning why these clones exist and the motives behind it are just so goddamn flimsy. Like, I imagine when Peele was writing the script of this movie, he sat there and he looked it over and had everything so intricately woven and stitched together, all this subtext and metaphors and all this crap, except for that one little aspect. And instead of going back and reworking it and trying to make it really sound and tight, I feel like he just sat back and went, fuck it, it's good enough. I just found it aggravating sitting in the theater trying to wrap my brain around what was going on and trying to make sense of everything. Because when I left the theater confused, and especially when it came to all the fucking rabbits in this movie. You know, from what I gather, the rabbit symbolism is all about, you know, cloning and experimentation or reproduction or whatever, something like that. I really don't give a fuck. I just found it as annoying as that stupid fucking white horse in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I've bitched enough, and it's not as though I think that this movie is bad or terrible. Far from it. There were actually a lot of things I did like about this movie. I really thought Jordan Peele stepped up his game visually as a director. I really love the music and the soundtrack. It's been stuck in my head since I left the theater, and I really like the way they weaved I Got Five on it into the actual score of the film itself. The acting across the board was solid, although I think Winston Duke's performance as the dad at times was a little weak. But what really carried this movie through all the problems I had with it was Lupita Nyong'o. Her dual performances were fucking outstanding. I really put hers in almost the same tier as James McAvoy's performances in Split and Glass. Because remember, she is playing two roles, and in a lot of those scenes, she has to act opposite herself. So to give that sort of level of performance, not only in one role, but in two, where each character is so nuanced, and to make it believable, like she is really there interacting with herself, that is just incredible. You know, I just got lost in her performances, and over the course of the movie, I just forgot that it was even the same actress. Oh yeah, speaking of which, do you want to know what the big dumb twist of this movie is? Lupita's character, the one that you've been following through this whole thing, is really one of the clones that escaped, and the clone that's been attacking her throughout the entire movie is the real person.
What a twist!
Now, to avoid confusion in this a little bit, I'm going to refer to the real Adelaide by her name and the clone as Red, because that's what she's wearing through the movie. Now, at the beginning, we established that as a child, Adelaide went through a traumatic experience at some sort of amusement park. She ended up bumping into her doppelganger Red, and before we could see the outcome of what happens, the movie cut away. It was at that moment that I realized, okay, it's gonna come back and be revealed later on that they switched places and, you know, big switcheroo. The point of contention I have with all this, though, why does Adelaide want to come up and murder everybody, murder tons of innocent people that aren't associated with this, just to get revenge for what Red did to her? It doesn't really make any sense, because everybody on the surface, those are her people. So why would she want to just wipe them all out? I think that's really escalating her own motives, which I feel would just be singular on Red herself. And one of the other things, you know, I thought about too was when she was little and she got handcuffed down there by Red, you know, it shows in the movie she was eventually freed, and then all of a sudden she's just like, okay, well, they accept me and I'm just gonna live my life down here now. That's fucking horse shit. I don't care how old I was. I mean, outside of being an infant where you don't know any better, the age that this girl is, she would have had enough sense, you would think, that once I got free, I'm gonna get the fuck out. But no, it's never addressed and it's never brought up. The logic in these scenarios that take place just don't add up and they don't make a lot of sense. And that's really where a lot of my core problems with this movie boil down to. It's not in the look, it's not in the acting, it's really just in the meat and the potatoes, in the plot of this story. And that's where I think a lot of this movie and a lot of the logic in this movie just sort of collapses in on itself. Anyway, that was my look into the movie Us. Now let us, see what I did there? Go to the motherfucking wing scale. I really wanted to love this movie, especially after Peele's masterstroke debut with Get Out, and this was one of my most anticipated movies of 2019, but I just did not think it was all that great. Now, it's a fine movie, don't get me wrong. I still found it entertaining. Peele's direction was on point, and the acting performances within are enough to carry it, but only so far. And for a movie that strives to be a wake-up call to our social conscious, I find that the message unfortunately gets lost in the muddled mess of a story that just can't get out of its own way. It's a movie that is just painfully mediocre. Well, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you like Us? I didn't find it all that great, but if you did, if you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm right, please comment in the comment section below. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Adios, and GTFO.
You ain't got a reason why you
Ain't subscribed.
I'm gonna kill your whole fucking family.
All right, now get your fucking ass out the car. Go on. Yeah.
Yeah. Woo!